Hi, I'm Christine Crandall from New Business Strategies, and I'm going to re-present to you a presentation that I gave this morning to the Association for Corporate Growth called Elevating Your Customer Experience. So sit tight. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. It was a great session this morning, and I wanted everybody to benefit from it. The bottom line is, and what I'm going to talk about is, there's a lot of confusion around customer experience right now. It's a very simple phrase, and it has been so twisted and maligned over the past couple of years that very little of it has to do with customer or very much the experience that they're actually having. So before I actually begin, I want to just start off with a definition. Definitions are great places to start in this conversation. And in the definition I'm going to use is one that we use with our clients, and hopefully it'll also work for you. So I'm going to be reading a slide that's over here, and hopefully it'll show up in this presentation. And that is, customer experience is a buyer's satisfaction and perceived benefit with or about a brand's message, people, products, services, and processes through any interaction points across all touch points for the entire relationship's lifetime. So pretty comprehensive. That is, for us, customer experience. And when I use the term buyer, it's generic. It represents any decision maker. It could be the economic buyer. It could be someone who's actually using the product. So let's just think buyer, not in terms of procurement, but in terms of decision makers. So why is customer experience such a hot topic today? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first is that the internet and ubiquitous information has forever changed how businesses actually go about purchasing things that they need. It could be direct or indirect goods or services, or all types of different things. And that the experience that customers are looking for is really right now the basis of competition. So you're not going to compete on features. You're not going to compete on price. You're competing on the experience that your customers have and expect to have. So that is really a key reason why it's so hot. Additionally, when we start looking at how vendors actually behave in the marketplace, vendors, and it could be any type of vendor, they're focused on selling, right? They're focused on getting those next customers, on getting those next deals. And you know what, buyers are focused on, well, how did you treat that customer before? How did you treat prior customers, and did they get what they wanted, both in terms of ROI, but did they get what they wanted in terms of the experience? And so that's what they're making their decision on. So there's this little mismatch. And the last part is that the buyer's in control, and they always were in control. They just didn't really know it. Okay, right now they know it, and they are exercising their power. And so that's why customer experience is really hot right now. And the key to driving revenue is really doing something that's actually pretty simple. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. It's you're taking your people, your process, and your technology, and you're going to align it to the experience that your customers want, that your customers value, and you're going to align it to something called the customer's journey. And what's really interesting, and what we found from the research that we've done, is that buyers are actually looking to do business with customers, with sellers that actually get it, that actually get that it's about the experience, and it's not about the boatload of features, and it's not about having the cheapest price. And so as you start looking at your customers, do a little bit of probing, because you're going to find out is that they're looking to partner with someone who actually understands how important customers are. And to give you another statistic that is pretty well known, is that 80% of that buy cycle is completed because customers are on this self-directed journey, and they don't really want to talk to anybody until they're ready to talk to them, to a salesperson, and they expect that salesperson to really understand them and give them the experience that they're looking for. So let's sort of net this out. What's it worth? What's it worth if you actually deliver a great customer experience and you wow them and there's this consistent experience? What's it worth to you to go do that? Well, the running numbers right now is that it's about 20% or more of revenue. So, and that number works both ways. So it's 20% of revenue that you never see. All right, you never see this revenue. Your competitors are getting this revenue, and it's because as your buyers are looking for that experience and looking for the vendor to provide that experience, they may be finding that your competitors do a better job. And so that's 20% that never showed up in your pipeline, never showed up in your forecast. You didn't even know it was there. So it's 20%. On the flip side of the 20%, at the same time, you have 20% of your revenue that's at risk. If you're not consistently delivering the customer experience that you're delivering today or yesterday, and something happens and that quality decreases, your customers are going to leave. And so you've got 20% of revenue that's at risk. Pretty significant numbers, right? So if you're a $2 billion company, that's $400 million, or it could be $800 million that's really at risk. So who doesn't want additional revenue? Who doesn't want 20% more revenue? I think everybody does. And so that's revenue. What's interesting about this 20% is it's revenue that doesn't require more features. It doesn't require more R&D. It doesn't require more infrastructure. It doesn't require more headcount. It requires you to do something really simple, and that is go understand what the customer experience really is. Go look at your processes, match them up so you're side by side with your customer's journey, and you're going to see that 20%. And you'll see it actually this year. So it's really, really good. And so the question that I get a lot is, customer experience isn't something new. So why is it new now? Why is it such an issue now? And I think what I want to talk about is this something what I call this big gap. There's this big gap between perspectives, between the perspective of the buyer, between perspective of sellers, and that gap comes in the form that 86% of customers are willing to spend extra to get a better experience. I mean, these are B2B customers. They'll spend more to get a better experience. And so just think about your business, right? Think about those touch points that maybe are a little rough, or that maybe the handoff is not so clean. It could be with finance. It could be with legal. It could be on, customer service and support. And so think about where that's rough, right? So look at that 80% of customers that will actually want to pay more. And the reality is that only 1% of your customers feel as if they're getting a consistent wow customer experience. So again, look at your customers, right? Look at those touch points that are broken, and think about, what if that 1% was 5% or 10% or 15% for you, right? Imagine what that would mean in terms of fixing your touch points. And actually, it's by increasing that 1% to 5% to 10% to 15%, which is where the additional revenue of 20% is going to come from. But if we look at the gap from the vendor's perspective, right? So here's where vendors are coming out at the selling process, and at the customer in this one size fits all model, right? And since it's one size fits all, I'm going to put all this content out there, whether it's for training manuals or whether it's user manuals or whether it's FAQs or wikis. I'm just going to put it all out there, and vendors will look to buyers and say, you know what, you need to sort through all of this and you need to figure out what's relevant to you. Or worse yet, vendors, what we really don't realize is that vendors ask buyers to sort of be in the assembly business. Go out there and assemble the bits and the pieces that might be relevant to you and kind of let us know whether that's a fit. So here's kind of this challenge, is that when you look at this one-size-fits-all philosophy, which has been longstanding in the vendor community, what happens is that 75% of that content, regardless of where it is, pre-purchase or post-purchase, 75% of that content is not trusted by your buyers. They would much rather go see a post from a prior customer, or a comment or a white paper written by or a video, even better, a video by a prior customer. They're going to trust that an awful lot more. And so the challenge comes when we look at, well, how serious are vendors about delivering a wow customer service? Well, the talk is pretty good. 97% of vendors claim it's on the top of their strategic initiatives this year. They really want to align to customers. They want to align their people, process, and technologies to their customer journeys, and they want to deliver those consistently wow customer experiences. If that were really true, that 1% that I talked about earlier of customers who feel that they're getting a consistent great experience, that wouldn't be 1%. That number would be 5, 10, 15, 25, 30, 40, 50%. And when you dig underneath to really how serious vendors are about delivering a wow customer service, the number's a little bit more like 9%. So that's 9% that really have a program in place, that are actually measuring the results, that actually want to see the ROI, that actually are serious about committing to the program, which is kind of sad. And so we take all the rhetoric aside, and the question that I always ask is, what's holding you back? Well, there's really two answers. The one is fear. It's fear of change on the vendor side, and the other side of it is the fear of, I don't really know where to start. And pretty legitimate. So for vendors, what I say, if you really want to get onto that 97% strategic initiative to get that 20% of additional revenue, you've got 4 major steps to go. And it closes the gap. And this is stuff that you can do today, this year, for 20% additional revenue. And so that first step is method. It's journey. The first step is method. No, the first step is journey. Eventually, I will get this straight. And in this journey step, you're really researching and you're understanding that customer's journey, right? And a lot of people say, well, I have lots of customers, so they have lots of journeys. Well, they might think that, and you might think that, but the reality is no. The journeys actually do net out into a common set of journeys that might have a couple of 10, 20, 15% differences as you move across revenue bands, or as you move across personas, or as you move across industries. So you're not going to wind up with 1,000 different journeys. You're going to wind up with one, right? One macro journey. And so understanding that journey is the first step. Along with that, you're going to align your content to it. You're going to understand what the toll gates are. You're going to align your call to actions to those toll gates. You're going to look at your lead to close processes, and you're going to streamline that. And you're going to, that's the first step. The second step is actually creating together with your customers an experience that they really would actually pay extra for. And it's a great way to go do that. You do it in a bunch of co-creation workshop settings, and it actually binds the customer closer to you, because customers will have a vested interest in making sure that you have that experience, right? And they will bond with your employees, and your employees will understand now just how important it is. From there, you're going to look at your strategy, because now you have facts versus folklore, myths, and wishful thinking. You're going to have facts about what moves the needle with your customers, and you're going to revisit your strategy. You're not going to throw it all out, but you're going to revisit it. You're going to tweak your plan. You're going to tweak your strategies. You're going to tweak your objectives. You might even go so far as to do some changes to your business model, but you now know that it's lined up with what your customers are going to pay for. And along the way, the last step is culture. Right? So as you're going through these changes and you're making these little incremental changes, your culture is going to change. And so the last step is a very concerted effort to bake this into the DNA of your organization. And so your whole organization becomes very customer-centric. So let me net this out in terms of 5 steps that you actually can do over the next 45, 60 days. Totally doable. The first step is go interview your customers. Magic number is 30. This is 30 qualitative interviews. Sit down, go visit your customers, sit down with them and ask them to recount their journey in detailed steps. And so you might want to do the first pre-purchase part of it, and in a separate interview, do the post-purchase side of it. You're going to find that those two journeys are very different, but 30 qualitative interviews. Don't try to do this by survey. It doesn't work. Don't do it by focus groups. It doesn't work. Qualitative interviews, 30 of them, right? Not a whole lot. Your customers will just love you for doing this. The second is align your content to the toll gates. What you're going to find from those customer interviews, you're going to find that 50% of the content that you have right now that everybody's trying to keep current, nobody looks at. You get to delete that. It's wonderful. It's great. What's left of the 50% is you're going to now work that content to line it up to the buyer's journey and to specifically those internal decision points. And you're going to identify the gaps in which you have opportunities to provide tools to help your buyer, to enable your buyer through their decision process. The third step is to co-create with your customers the wow optimal experience that they really want. The fourth is train your employees on what that experience is, their role in that experience, your expectations of them. And then the fifth is implement this and refine. And it's going to be an iterative process. You're not boiling the ocean all in one step. You're going to do it incrementally. You can do this. You can do this in 45 to 60 days. You can do this. You can make it work. So hopefully this has helped. Hopefully you found this presentation very interesting and kind of gave you ideas that you can actually help your buyers. You can connect your customer experience to revenue. You can help pull your buyers through their own self-directed journey a whole lot faster. If you want information, welcome you to call me, 415-309-7017. Check us out on the website. It's www.newbizs.com, or check us out also on Twitter under Chris Crandall. Thank you. Bye.